come together to share our story, share our love, share your faithfulness. May the words that we speak touch the lives of many. May this be distributed to many somehow, some way. We thank you that the time has come to share our story. We ask that you bless it, Lord, right now. Holy Spirit, think through our minds, speak through our voices, and allow the word of God to come forth, and the faithfulness and the glory of God to be seen. We thank you for the lives that will be changed, hearts that will be open, and lives that will be touched from our story. So we honor you, we praise you, we thank you in Jesus' name.
Hi guys.
What's up?
What's up?
Man, this has been a long time coming.
Very long. Overdue.
Yeah, overdue, but I think in everything in due season. Mm-hmm. And so we're ready to tell our story.
Ready to tell our story. You know, we always, you may read it from the title or whatever, but we're always asked those questions of, do you guys want kids? When are the kids coming?
Do you guys have kids?
Do you guys have kids? And now we're just going to explain everything.
We're going to let it all out.
Let it all out. I purposely did not wear my lashes today because I don't know what's going to happen. I am an emotional person, so just never know. So yeah. Do you want to get into it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Reflecting back, I'll just say this. I think ever since I was a child, right? Like, this was something that children, of course, is what we're talking about. It's something that I've always dreamed of, right? I remember, you know, I had my own room and, well, actually not at this time. At this time, me and my sister shared a room and we always played with our dolls. We were always mothers. We were always going to the grocery store, which was our kitchen downstairs. Like, we always had that motherly instinct, right? Like, we were ready to kick in and take care of babies and kids and all that stuff. And I know for me personally, it was something that I was always attracted to. I was always attracted to the idea of being a mother. I was always attracted to nurturing something and seeing it grow. I remember, like, when I was younger, I don't know how many people know, but it was a show called A Baby Story on TLC.
Remember that show?
You do remember that show? And I faithfully watched that video. Like, I somehow, like, was in the room with the mother telling her to push. Like, I was just, like, encouraging her. Like, somehow I was just attracted to childbirth. Like, I just loved the idea. And I think that it was just interesting, like, even as a child, for me personally, like, wanting that and desiring that. So knowing that I'm, 35 now, from a child at, like, 5 years old, like, for the past 30 years, that has been in my spirit. That has been something I've been wanting for so long. And it's just, you always question, like, when or why. And back then I didn't question it. Of course, I thought it was automatic. I was just going to grow up and have kids. You know, it's something that you, like, automatically think of. But I didn't know it was going to be as hard as it has been, right? So I guess, like, my question to you, and I know we kind of talked about this earlier, but I'm assuming you probably didn't have those childhood memories like I had as far as wanting children or anything like that.
I really didn't think about it as a kid. One day I'm gonna be a daddy. Like, it just wasn't in, like, you would, I think occasionally, the one thing about my childhood is I grew up with a mom who did babysit a lot of kids. So being around kids was big, especially as I got into teenage years, and, like, I even babysitted kids myself. So I always had a love for children.
Because you're a child at heart.
I am a child at heart. I would sit and watch some animated films in a heartbeat. So that piece of me, like, I always knew I wanted kids. I couldn't wait. Like, I can't wait to have them. but it wasn't like a thing. It's just always on my mind, like saying that. But I think that's the way we kind of raise, like you know, girls being raised that nurturing,
dolls
motherly type, where we're raised to play with the trucks and stuff like that. Yeah. But definitely understand where you're coming from in this journey, and has been hard. Yeah. That's why it's confessions. It's fertility confessions. So.
And I don't even know why I'm nervous, like, talking to you guys about this. I mean, because I know, like, it's something that God has placed on our heart, like, tell your story, because you're not the only one going through it, right? And I think it's, like, reality has set in, like, hope you're not going through this alone, or, like, there's so many other people that have gone through it. And it's something just unique that God wanted to do with our marriage, and so that's why we're here. But I think, like you said, like, going back to the teenage years, like, your mom had you around kids as she was bringing kids up and all that stuff. And like going back to my teenage years, I remember when I got my period. I remember actually I was at my grandmother's house and I didn't want to talk to her about it because I'm like, that's just weird, right? Talking to your grandmother about it. But I was sleeping over at her house and I remember I was like, okay, all right, I'm a woman, like I'm ready, you know? But I noticed, like, as I kept having my periods, that they were starting to become like irregular. And I remember in high school, I think it was math class. I was in math class and I was having really bad cramps. And that's how kind of like, I was like, something's not right. Like, I know that you're supposed to have cramps, but the way I was cramping, to the fact of like, I feel like I want to pass out. Like, you know, things just, I was getting dizzy. I was like, these cramps just don't feel normal. And I remember I asked the teacher, I was like, can I go to the bathroom? And I was laying on the floor, literally dirty floor in high school. And I know that's how much pain I was in. I didn't care where I was at. But I was laying in the floor in the bathroom, and it was in the humanities hall. So it was like I had my own private, like they had separate. It wasn't like a, 3-4 stall. And I was just laying there, and all I remember is waking up. I don't know if I passed out. I don't know if I went to sleep. I don't know what happened, but literally the period was almost over as far as math, not like my period. Like the math period was almost over. And I just remember coming back and he was like, where'd you go? Like, why were you gone? And I said, honestly, I'm having woman issues. And I just knew at that moment, like, something's not right. I need to go to the doctor or get checked out. And it was just one of those things that, like, at that point I started getting nervous because I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I not having regular periods? Like, why is my body acting like that? And then fear kind of started to set in. Not that I was thinking about kids at that point, but part of me always thinks about future. And it's like, is this ever going to affect anything with having kids? Yeah, I don't know. But I think just teenage years, like that's even when I got interested in like OBGYN. Like, oh my God, it'd be so cool to deliver babies or, help women bring life into the world. And like, I even thought about that as a career, but then the scary part of that kicked in as far as, like things happening to babies. Like I wasn't ready for that piece of it. But yeah, I don't know. I think like teenage years were just interesting. A lot of future thoughts happened in my teenage years that kind of scared me. And I think it's definitely important to get checked out if you feel as though something is wrong. And
especially you feel like something in the black community, black women.
Let's talk about that.
I think it's so important to make sure you're taking care of your bodies, making sure you're getting your annual checkup, just because you just never know, and our black women are not being taken care of enough in the medical system. And I always wonder, like, what is that? Like, I'm a very private person. So this already is starting off like, I don't even know why I'm telling y'all all this. But like, even when it came to my period, like I didn't tell my mom right off the bat that I had it. Like I was the type like, this is my problem. Like she don't need to know. I'm the one dealing with it. You know what I'm saying? And I would take like her and my sister's monthly supplies and use them without them knowing. So it's just one of those things that was like, that was my business. And so it's like, I felt
in which I had to do better with, keeping that from people. Like it was something at 14, 15 years old that it's like, this is my business. Like, why would I tell people? I don't want even my mom to know that I'm struggling or dealing with this or whatever. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't know why I was raised. Well, I wasn't raised, but I don't know why me personally, like, have a hard time expressing certain things, especially personal things like that. Like any teenage.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure you weren't even thinking and it's so interesting. Like just the dynamic of, men versus women, like that's something you don't even have to think of a period or like, missing something. The only thing you had to worry about was if you got somebody pregnant.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
But that's not this confessional. This is a whole nother confessional. Oh God. So after teenage years, probably we started dating when I was 19?
18.
I was 19 though, right? Or
we was talking when you was 18 though.
For those of you that know, y'all know that we've known each other since middle school and dated early high school. But this last time around,
when we started talking, it was going into my senior year when we went to TGI Friday, so I was 16 then.
Your senior year, you were 16?
No, I'm sorry, 17.
I was about to say, I know. 17, going into your senior year.
Yeah.
So at that time, like, not at that particular moment, but like a couple years later, we knew we were getting serious, right? We knew that we were,
young adults, me in college. Yeah.
Young adults, yeah. You had graduated, you had went to college. We started having the talk of marriage and like all of that stuff. And, which is exciting. And, I think at this point, like, okay, we're starting to have the conversations. We're starting to have those serious conversations that we talk about in our other YouTube videos. So go check those out if you guys want to. The questions before marriage and all that stuff. And so, at that point, I'm kind of thinking of, okay, I have this issue that nobody can really solve, right? I've gone to the doctors. They don't know. They couldn't tell me what was going on. It was something that before we got really serious, I wanted to try to get it under wraps, like figure it out, get control of it. And I remember going to the doctor. Actually, your mom took me to the doctor. Yeah. And it was interesting because at that point, I remember having a period, and this was regular for me, which is showing you how irregular it is. For me, I would bleed at like 2 weeks at a time. I wouldn't have a period for like 2 to 3 months. So it came like quarterly, I guess you could say, right? And it was one of those things that I was bleeding, I think 2 weeks had passed, and I think at this point I was living with your parents, I think, because you were in college. Mm-hmm. And I told your mom, and I was like, I'm feeling weak at this point. I've lost so much blood. And it was heavy. This is probably TMI, just to let y'all know. So I don't know. If you want to skip through this part, feel free. But it was like heavy. It was just nasty. It was just a lot going on. And I was like, at this point, this is not normal. I'm cramping bad. So we went to the doctor. The doctor said they can't say that anything is wrong. Like, this is literally just an irregular period. And they put me on birth control. So then I'm put on birth control to stop the flow. Long story short, I got fat because of birth control. Put some pounds on you. I started getting real moody, irritable, didn't like the way it was feeling. I felt like crap. And it was one of those things, it's like you're either on the birth control and you can try to regulate your period, or you get off the birth control and we still stick to the quarterly period, bleeding for 2 to 3 weeks. So I was on birth control, but at that point I was trying to get it together before I committed my life to Kadero, because I was like, I don't want him to be a part of this. Like, I need to get my life together and her together down there and all that stuff.
Get her together.
I got to get her together. You see what I'm saying? So it was one of those things that to this day, still couldn't tell you why I was bleeding like that. Like, I still couldn't tell you what the problem was. But fast forward, Kadero and I had started dating. We were dating in college and all that stuff. And then he proposed, asked me to marry him. Best decision of my life. I said yes. Still didn't know what was going on with me, but I said yes. And it was one of those things that everybody else started seeing that we were getting serious, right? So everybody else started planning our wedding and getting excited for our wedding. And, after, the wedding, the children come. So we were hit with that, right? So we're hit with that question. Do you have anything you want to say about that question?
It's just interesting, like, immediately people feel like you're going to have kids right when you get married. Like, we was 21 and 23 when we got married. So I was not thinking about kids at the time. We talked about it, and we'll get to that. But I think in the back of my head, like, I just want to be with my wife.
Enjoy each
other. And let a few years go by before we even think about that.
And I think that's the hard part, is that, like, people can, and I don't think they mean anything by it, but they put, like, this pressure on you, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh, can we say I do first before we welcome children? Yeah. And then too, like, just being sensitive, because, like, whoever said that to me probably didn't know that I was struggling with my period and, like, all of that stuff and ovulating. So it's like, it can be sensitive moments for sensitive people. But I mean, even when we were dating, I remember one time Kadero came home and we went to a church service, right? And this prophet had came to church. And we had went to see the prophet, right? Went to see the prophet. And the prophet didn't know my name, didn't know Kadero's name. I don't think he knew we were together. He was from out of town or whatever. I don't know. It could, never mind. Let me keep that to myself. I know. But he called me up, and then he called Kadero, and he said something to the effect of, like, what, y'all are gonna get married, or
we're destined
something
to be,
like that.
He can see wedding bells.
Yeah.
And literally, it's like, and I see 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl. And at this time, we were not married. We was dating. I think I was in my freshman year of college, or just finished my freshman year.
Yeah.
So it was just like, but it's interesting, like, even in those moments, especially when you get a man of God that puts the Lord's name in this thing, it's like, ooh. And for some people, you can take that and be like, oh, that's God is speaking right there. Yeah. And if you don't know, like, some of that stuff could be put on the shelf and for later, or he may be totally off. If you don't know that, like, you can get real stressed out. And I think for us, we were at a point where it was like, oh, okay. But at the same time, we was just like, I'm not even thinking about kids, so I kind of left that. Like,
and God had not definitely told me 4 children. See what I'm saying?
Neither one of us was ever thinking about 4. So, but that's interesting that people can put that, and, like, even in the church, you can be bombarded by stuff like that.
Because I will not forget, after that service, people that I knew came up with, 4 children, get ready. And all of this stuff. And I'm like,
wedding bells, you better start saving up.
Can he carry me over the threshold first?
Graduate college. Good girl. Can I get a job first?
Get that degree.
Can I get a degree? Figure out my life?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, no. It's so much pressure that can be put on a person. So we remember that. But then we finally got married, right? Finally crossed over to the marriage side. And that's when it really started hitting.